If I had to launch a Shopify store and scale it from zero to $1 million in revenue in 9 months or less, what I would not do is put money into ads straight away. In fact, the first thing I would do is focus on the foundations, because if I put money into the ads straight away, that's the fastest way for me to go broke. Now, not every single store is going to hit $1 million in revenue in 9 months or less. Some will take quite a long time for it. Others will take probably a very short time, because there's many different factors you need to consider, such as your average order value, your product market fit, the demand for your product, and various other things like that as well. But in this video, if you follow the steps I'm about to show you, you stand a very good chance of making your Shopify store a success. You go from surviving to thriving just by watching this video. Now, who am I? My name is Taz, and I look after a lot of e-commerce brands in the UK. My agency, Pear Digital, has been working with e-commerce brands since 2014, and we have spent millions of dollars in ads, and we help our clients generate millions in profitable revenue. So in this video, I'm going to break it down for you. Let's get into it. But before I do, I actually want to show you the client that I'm talking about. So this is the client, and so far we have generated £736,000 in revenue. So when you convert, that's just over $1 million USD. And we started working with them in July, and now it's March 2026, and we have got them to $1 million. So just to show you that this is not a screen grab or anything at all, I'm going to refresh the screen so you get to see everything in action. And once it reloads again, that'll be really good. And there we have it. So yeah, £737,000, just over $1 million USD in 9 months. If you're looking to hit $1 million in revenue in 9 months, then you need to look at some numbers. Now remember, this whole thing that we do is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And that's the kind of businesses we like to work with at Pear Digital. We have the long-term view in mind and are looking to build a business, not just make a quick few bucks within the next 30 days and then completely burn down their store and do all sorts of silly things that don't really help build a business. So in terms of numbers, let's look at it this way. Now, to generate $1 million in revenue, you're looking at roughly just over £3,000 a day, or $3,000 a day in revenue consistently for 9 months. Now, you're not going to start straight away at $3,000 a day, okay? You're probably going to start at a little bit lower than that. Another thing you need to consider is your average order value. So the average order value is the amount of money a customer will spend when they visit your website. So if your average order value, for example, is around $50 a day, then you need 74 orders a day in order to hit that number. Now, if your average order value is $80 a day, you need a few less orders. In fact, you need only about 46 orders a day. And if your average order value is about $120, then you need only 31 orders. So you see what I'm doing there? If your average order value is at a very good point and your customers are spending more per visit, then hitting that $1 million revenue mark is not going to be that difficult. In fact, it's going to be relatively easy. Now, if your average order value is lower than $50, then obviously you'll need to hit a lot more sales and volume. Now, quick disclaimer on this one as well. It's 2026 and e-commerce has gotten really harder, okay? Now, we've been around since 2014 helping brands scale and grow their e-commerce businesses. And way back in the day, there wasn't that much competition. Ad costs were really low and a good time to be alive really at that point. But now in 2026, it's really difficult. There's a lot more competition. Ad spend is a lot more expensive. So the cost of running ads is way more expensive than it was even 2 years ago. Bearing all this in mind, a lot of e-commerce businesses do fail, unfortunately. But they fail because they've got the wrong mindset, in that they're looking for a quick win because they saw someone on YouTube saying that you can scale your business from 0 to $1 million in 30 days or less. That's not the case. There's a lot of things that you need to take into account and consider and really be realistic. That's the only way you're going to build a business which is going to thrive, not just survive. So it's really important that you understand that. And this is what this video is going to help you with. So having said that, and having looked at the numbers, it's really important you get a grasp of that before you start moving into anything else. So how would you start this? In the first 60 days or the first 30 days, your offer is all about testing, okay? So you're not going to spend a single penny on your ads. It's really important you do that, because I know you're going to get this itch to go into your Meta or Google Ads account and create some creatives and dump it all in there and just get ready to get going with ads. Don't do that. Okay, really get the foundations right, because the ads are nothing more than a traffic source. What you need to do is understand that the actual transaction where your customer gives you their hard-earned money to you, it happens on the website. And you need to make sure that everything around the website is supporting that action, such as your social media feeds, your social proof, your testimonials, and various other things like that, and even product market fit. So it's really important you don't go into your ads account and start tinkering around in there straight away. So in terms of the offer, we aren't just selling a product, okay? Or you are not just selling a product, you're selling a solution to an active problem that a customer may be having, okay? And one of the best ways, for example, going back to what I said previously about increasing your average order value, is to see if you can put all your products or services into a bundle, okay? So if you create a bundle of certain things, then that gives the customer the benefit of saving a bit of money. So instead of buying individual items from your store, they can buy a bundle of items together, which obviously complement each other, therefore saving themselves a bit of money and increasing that first time purchase rate for you. So that's really important. Also, it's really important, and this is what really surprises me, because we build a lot of Shopify websites, we migrate them as well from other different platforms. We see a lot of work from developers in 2026, and their sites are not optimized for mobile version. 80%, 90% of your traffic is going to come from mobile devices. Okay, it's not going to come from desktop or anything at all like that. Yes, it will, but it's going to be far less. A lot of people are on their mobile devices, and it's really important you optimize your website for mobile friendliness. Okay, and I can't believe I'm having to say this in 2026, because it should be a no-brainer now. It should be something that should not be said at all, but here I am saying it, because I see a lot of websites that come to us and they're absolutely rubbish when it comes to mobile responsiveness. So you need to make sure that your mobile responsiveness is on point. The third thing that you need to look at is your tracking. Now, it's really important that your tracking is set up correctly, because what I see in a lot of accounts is, for example, you'll have a Google Ads account and they're recording add to cart and initiate checkout as conversions, which are then inflating your top line figure. It's making you think that your ads are performing really well, when in fact they're not. Okay, so to an amateur or someone who's just beginning, this could be a very misleading thing, and based on that, you will make some very bad, wrong decisions which will hurt your business's growth and run it into the ground. So it's really important that your tracking and everything is set up correctly and as best as it can be. And again, if there's something that you need help with, there's a link down below. Book a call in and we can make sure that's good, set up correctly for you. Now, before we turn on the taps for Meta and Google and all these other platforms, we aren't chasing profit just yet. Now, I know that sounds very controversial because you started a business to make a profit, but we're telling you, or I'm telling you right now, don't start chasing profit straight away. The reason I'm saying that is because you need to understand the numbers and the figures that I mentioned earlier on. You're not going to go from zero to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a day in revenue straight away unless you're selling something really unique and really high demand and all sorts like that. So it's really important you understand this. Okay, so we test 10 different 15 UGC pieces of content organically. Okay, so this is where your organic reach is going to be really important, and I can't overestimate even how important organic reach actually is, because again, everyone straight away goes into let's run the ads, let's pay money to Meta, Google, and let's get ourselves out there. In the first 30 days, it's really important you build a good social following for your product, your business, your brand. Okay, and that is really key, because from there you'll be able to gauge the responses that your audience is giving you. So you may not necessarily get a huge amount of sales coming through, you may get the odd one or two, but what you're going to be measuring is your audience's responses. So let's say, for example, you're selling, I don't know, some kind of perfume or a health supplement or something like that, and your audience is commenting, this smells really good, or this tastes really good, or I feel much more energy in myself, and things like that. That will start giving you an idea as to what your audience responds to. And you need to test that kind of response with 10 to 15 different creatives with different hooks, elements, and things like that into it. So different messaging for different audience groups. And then from there, you can then start narrowing down which audience is the most responsive in a positive way. And then from there, when you are ready to start running your ads, you can then start running your ads using that data that you've gathered. Okay, and within that, you're also looking at your angles. So, for example, let's say you're selling a health supplement which increases men's testosterone levels, for example. You can do it from the point of, are you over 40 and you're running low on testosterone? Or are you looking to improve your energy levels? Or are you looking to be better overall? So it really depends on the product that you're selling, but you need to test different angles which appeal to the product that you're selling in terms of their benefit that they're going to give the customer, or the service that they're going to provide to that customer. So it's really important you test that angle first. If you're selling, for example, health supplement, as I mentioned, talk about the taste, talk about the energy levels, talk about the positive responses that you're going to get by taking this health supplement. If you're selling perfume, talk about the comparison between this perfume and something else. There's so many different ways you can test an angle, but it's really important you test it organically first, okay, before you start putting money into paid ads. Okay, and we're buying intelligence at this stage. We're not buying sales or profit, we're buying intelligence, data. And that data is absolutely key. Now, this is the thing that a lot of people misunderstand when it comes to marketing. Marketing is not just about creating really powerful creatives and all that visual stuff and all the good stuff. It's understanding your numbers and your data. That sounds really boring, but it's also a very essential part of building a marketing machine which allows your business to grow and not just survive, but thrive. So it's really important you understand the data and you really be analytical about it. So within the first 30 days, what we've discussed so far is understanding your audience by posting organic content to see what kind of responses they get, and understanding your numbers and setting up your tracking really good, and optimizing your website and everything else for mobile conversion. Now we're going to move into phase 3. So in phase 3, right, at this point, you're 30 to 40 days in, right, you're getting a bit of traffic on your website, and this is where the leaky bucket. Now, leaky bucket is obviously pretty self-explanatory, a bucket with holes in it. You're filling it from the top with water, but the water's coming back down from the bottom. So how do you address this problem? Now, again, there's a big shiny object syndrome in e-commerce marketing, which is let's run ads, let's get new customers. But what about the people who are already responding to you? What about the people who've already engaged with you? And what about the people who are already showing an interest? It's really important you have set up the retention flows that are needed to capture that attention. So email marketing becomes a real key thing, not just an afterthought. And again, we're here in 2026, and I see a lot of e-commerce brands, even large brands, treating email marketing, as a afterthought, sending out the odd email once in a while, or the flows are not set up correctly, or they're very basic at the basic level. That's not cool. You need to understand your customer journey, and you need to provide them with the trust factor that you need, okay? Because people buy from people, and the only way you're going to gain that trust factor is if you educate and nurture your audience. And the best way to do that is through retention marketing, through email marketing, through SMS marketing, and even WhatsApp. So that's really important. Setting that up from day one would really help you, because you're starting to see a trickle of traffic coming through on your website. Okay, now it's really important you capture that attention, you capture the response from that customer, because they put their hand up and said, we want to find out more, we want to do business with you potentially. But the only way you can do that is if you set up something in place which will nurture them and stay in touch with them and keep your brand and your business front of their mind, so when they are ready to make a purchase, they don't go to a competitor, they come to you directly. So we're 3 or 4 months in now, so at least about, I'd say minimum 3 months in, you've gathered a lot of data and a lot of intelligence based on your customers' behavior. The next step now is the one you've been waiting for, turning on the ads. So it's really important you understand who your audience are, what their pain points are, what they're responding to based on the data that you've gathered, and then from there you create content and a flywheel of content around how you're going to respond to their pain points and how you're going to then position your product or service to them. Now, two of the biggest platforms that we tend to use here at Pear Digital, obviously you've got others like TikTok and Snapchat and whatnot, but the two biggest heavyweight undisputed champions of advertising platforms are Google Ads and Meta Ads. Okay, now I'm not going to go into the statistics of how many users there are in Meta or Google or whatever. Point is, everyone's heard of these two platforms, and every e-commerce business worth their salt is on these platforms. Okay, and this is where you're going to be. But how you treat these platforms is what's going to be a differentiating factor. It's what's going to give you the success you need. Now, Meta is interest-based. In other words, your creative is going to be doing all the heavy lifting. So in other words, with Meta Ads, you're going out there searching for your customer. Okay, Google, on the other hand, is intention-based. So what that means is that your customers are searching for you. Now, if you treat both of them actually as the same, you're not going to succeed. So you need to understand exactly how your customer journey is going to work. So, for example, if you want to go out and get your customers, you need to take that data that you've gathered, create content, whether it's UGC, static images, whatever it may be, and create that content so that it addresses that customer's pain points. Once you've done that, you can then create the intention behind it. So what are the keywords that the customer is using? What is the image and product descriptions and everything that are going to be more responsive when a customer searches for your product using Google? Now, obviously, there's other elements like ChatGPT search and things like that, which I can do another video on a bit later on. But for now, as I'm recording this video, those two platforms are the best way to get in front of your customer and notify them of your product and really start building your brand presence. So Meta Ads, which will include obviously Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and all these other platforms, will give you that visual element. Okay, so it's really important that your creatives they don't have to be a massive Hollywood production or anything at all, but it's really important that they get the point across. They stop the scroll and they get the point across to the customer, because one thing you got to understand is your customer's attention span is very short now. Okay, I'm guilty of that too. Okay, I consume content within a few seconds, and I don't really want to spend hours and hours trying to figure out what your product does, whatever. I just want to look at it, understand exactly what it does, and if it hits me in the right places, then yeah, I'm going to make a purchase. If it doesn't, I'm going to scroll on. Okay, so it's really important your content, the content that you create, the copy that you write, the hooks that you use, really just grab that attention of that customer. So think of Meta as the scroll stopper. Okay, what you're trying to do is stop them from scrolling. okay, on their when they're scrolling on when they're bored or whatever, and getting them interested in what you have to offer, and then getting them to click and then land on your website. And the website is a whole different conversation in itself. With Google, if your customers are already searching for you, then you need to double down on that. You need to understand what keywords they're using, what kind of search patterns they're using, and really double down on that, understand that. And this is where, going back to what I said earlier, setting up the tracking is really key. And gathering that data that you gathered in the first 30 to 40 days, that's really important as well. So here we are in month sort of 3, and we've turned the ads on, and everything is now ticking along just nicely. Now, going back to the retention side of things. Now, retention, as I mentioned, is really important that you have set up from day. Okay, so when I say retention, I'm talking about things like your welcome flow, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, browse abandonment, active on-site, all these kind of flows. Again, I can do another video later on down the line if you want to find out a little bit more about this. But a lot of people tend to set these up, again, as an afterthought, as just a tick box, without any really thought going into it. Okay, so the welcome flow structure, for example, for your welcome flow, it doesn't necessarily work for you in the same way it would work for, say, someone else or a competitor of yours, because your customer's journey is going to be a little bit different. Now, one key thing I want to mention here is there's 2 important transactions when the customer comes to your website. Okay, the first is obviously the monetary transaction, where they give you their money to buy your product. The second most important transaction, and I think this is probably the most valuable one, is when they give you their email address or their telephone number for you to follow up with them. Okay, because this is where your customer lifetime value metric will come into play, and I'll get into that a little bit later on in perhaps in another video to really explain customer lifetime value. But the point is that customer has given you their information, and as long as you're doing it all compliantly and everything, they're happy for you to send information to them, which will keep you front of mind. So where you have spent a little bit of money acquiring that customer and maybe not making as much profit on the first sale, you are now in a position to make more money from that customer as long as your product and service is spot on and they're happy with what you have to provide. And so it's really important that you understand how your retention journey works for your customer and making sure that every single touch point is taken care of without being spammy. So let's say, for example, they made a purchase from you and you sell, I don't know, perfumes, going back to that example, and you wish to show them another range of perfumes that they may be interested in. Setting up a post-purchase flow, which is basically a flow which is set up once a customer has made a purchase, setting that up pretty much from day one and sending them recommendations based on what they've bought from you and giving them alternative products to buy. That will obviously increase your customer lifetime value because you've already paid to acquire that customer. Now all you're doing is sending them a quick little email or a text message or a WhatsApp message saying to them, look, you bought this perfume, how about we recommend these others to you? Oh, and if you come back, because you're an existing customer, and if you come back within, say, 30 days, we'll give you another 20% off, or you can do a buy one, get one free, or buy this for a friend, something like that. So it really helps you to understand these kind of customer journey points so that you build your retention model around that so that becomes your most profitable source. Because when it comes down to retention is actually the most profitable way of growing your business. And ads are all well and good and they're absolutely essential, but the cost to run ads is always increasing. Okay, so your retention then starts becoming a massive part of your overall profitable revenue structure. Now, we're 6 months into this journey, okay, and things are ticking along nicely. You're slowly hitting that £3,000 or $3,000 a day mark, and now you're looking to scale that even further. You're looking to scale that and grow that and make it more consistent. And that is the key thing, okay? Because when it comes to scaling, a lot of people tend to think, let's spend more money, let's create more ads, let's get more customers. What you need to do first of all is build that baseline consistency. So you need to tell yourself every single day or an average over a few days, I need to be hitting a certain amount of revenue every single day, okay? And it's really important you build that consistency into it. So the way you do that is you take winning campaigns and you scale those campaigns, but you do it in a very intelligent way, okay? You don't just think to yourself, okay, if I spend $1,000 and I'm getting $10,000 back, what I'll do now is I'll spend $10,000 and that will mean I'll get $100,000 back. A lot of people still think like that. Do not think like that. When it comes to scaling and growing your consistency, scaling intelligently and spending your money intelligently becomes a lot more important. In fact, it becomes the most important thing you need to do. So what you should be doing is scaling your ads on average up at least 20 to 40% across a week. Stick to 20%, hold it there, see how the performance goes, and then start scaling it, putting more creatives into it, expanding your keyword options, and expanding your product feed for your shopping ads and various other things like that. So it's really important you scale slowly so that you don't lose that consistency that you've built now. Okay, so we take the winning creatives and we then put them into what's called campaign budget optimization in Meta, and for Google we then broaden the PMax campaigns a little bit more so that you let the algorithms, Google's algorithm and Meta's algorithm, kind of do the heavy lifting for you. So you don't have to sit there doing all the manual little clicks and things like that yourself. Okay. And what we then do is we move your product pages to dedicated landing page. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a hero product. So let's say you've got this health supplement and it's your best your best kind of seller. It's your hero product. Spin that product out as its own dedicated landing page. Okay, so what that means is when they click on it, it's like a big old page with lots of information, reviews, testimonials, information about the product. Basically, it does the selling for you. Think of it as a salesperson in your shop floor, if you were to have a shop floor, for example. So this sales page or dedicated landing page is going to be the key thing when it comes to scaling. And for every single product that you've got, which does really well and they've got good margins and they're doing really well in sales, you can spin those out as different landing pages, which would then mean that the customer journey is a lot more focused. In other words, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be focusing on just that one particular page, one particular product, which means that they're not distracted with this and the other. So that's really important. And it's really important you start planning that at this point, if not developing it and putting it into practice so that your profitability starts going up. So we're now in month number 9, okay? And by month 9, we're looking at 120K to 150K per month in revenue, which is basically the goal. So when you total up your whole 9 months, you're now in a position where you've made that $1 million in revenue. Okay, so what we need to do now is tighten your marketing efficiency ratio. So we push your VIP email segments and launch new collections or bundles to your existing list. And we're not asking, can we run ads anymore? We're asking, how do we scale profitably without breaking fulfillment? And that's one thing that really a lot of e-commerce brands tend to fall down on. Okay, things are going really well, sales are coming through, but fulfillment and back-end operations are an absolute mess. Deliveries are not going out on time. Customer service becomes a bit of a joke. You've got disgruntled customers. So while everything is looking good on the front end, the back end is a real mess. So before you start scaling, and this is so important, I can't stress this enough, you need to make sure that your back-end operations are really tight, okay? You need to make sure you've got systems in place that deal with customer queries, okay? Such as, most customers will be contacting you saying, where's my order? So you need to make sure you've got things in place which tell them where their orders are, how long it's going to be for them, and really setting that expectation from day one. Making sure that your fulfillment is on point. So, if you're using a 3PL, make sure that they're sending out the right products and on time, okay? I myself have run e-commerce businesses myself, and I've worked with a lot of clients who run e-commerce businesses, obviously, and sometimes they tell me some horror stories when it comes to their fulfillment centers sending out the wrong products, or they're not sending out them on time, because that has a knock-on effect. All it takes is one customer to leave a bad review, because you may have 100 good reviews, but that one bad review might sway another new customer from buying from you, okay? So it's really important you understand your customer journey to the point where your back-end operations are in line with your growth. Okay, so if it means you have to bring your fulfillment in-house at that point, then if you've got the resources to do, then do it. If you need to swap your fulfillment centers, then do that. Do whatever it is you need to do to make sure your back-end operations are really tight, because when you start scaling, okay, what you're doing is you're adding more water in the bucket. So you need to make sure that any overflow is captured. Okay, so it's really important your back-end operations are taken care of properly and accurately. So in this video, we've gone through exactly what to do to get from 0 to $1 million in revenue in 9 months. Now, there's a few things I want to cap this off with, okay, and it's really important that you understand this. Scaling off vibes, okay, it's the term I've come across, and honestly, it makes me laugh. Like, people will look at, say, an image or a creative or their best mate down the pub or something will be looking at their Facebook feed and just be like, oh, you know what, I like this image. You should create more of these ads and scale. Don't do that. Okay, don't listen to your mate if they just looked at something and whatever. I'm not saying don't listen to your friends and family or listen to feedback. Of course, do that. But before you make a decision based only on what they're saying, look at the numbers and data yourself first, or get your marketing agency or someone who you're working with who looks after that side of things to look at the data. So if your friend is telling you that this particular video or this particular image looks really good or looks really bad, before you action that change based on what they've said, go and look at the data. Go and look at the numbers first. All decisions that you make should be based on your numbers, okay? And because numbers don't lie. Numbers are very transparent. They're very 1 or 0, okay? It's binary, okay? There's either right or wrong. And if you follow the numbers, you will succeed, okay? So part of marketing is all about looking at your numbers, okay? Creative fatigue is a big important thing as well, okay? So what that means is you'll have one ad which is performing really well. It's like your winning ad, and over time it will start fatiguing. Okay, you need to jump on that before that starts happening. So again, it goes back to looking at your numbers. So within Meta, you've got things like your frequency dashboard and your ad quality score. So it's really important you look at that before you start making decisions on what to do and how to do it. And the biggest and most important thing, and guys, I can't stress this enough. I know I've stressed a lot of points in this video, but this is one thing I can't stress enough. If you want to scale and if you want to grow and if you want to be profitable, you need to make sure you have enough margin in your sales, in your products, to allow that to happen. Okay, so if your margin is below 50%, it's not that it's not impossible to scale and grow, it's going to be a bit difficult. The reason for that is because your ad costs are always going to be increasing. Okay, year on year, I've been doing this for 10 years now, over 10 years now, and I've seen ad costs go up quite a bit. Okay, and year on year they go up every single year. Okay, so where you were spending, say, 50 cents per click last year, you're probably spending $1.20 per click this year. Okay, for the same click, nothing's changed apart from the competition level and obviously the ad cost. So now you're spending more money to get that same click. So you really need to make sure that you have enough profitability in your products and margin, enough margin as well, to make sure that it becomes viable and logical for you to scale. Okay, don't just scale because some guy on YouTube or a 14-year-old says you need to scale. You need to look at your numbers. You need to be on top of your numbers. So when I speak to clients or when I speak to new prospects who are looking to work with us, the first thing I ask them is, what's your numbers looking like? I look at their numbers before I look at anything else. And that is really important because that tells me what's going to be possible and what's not going to be possible, and setting that realistic expectation. Okay, so just want to sort of close this off by saying getting to that $1 million mark is a massive achievement, but don't treat it as like this viral thing. Okay, virality is all well and good, but virality is basically like a shot in the arm. Really, it's very temporary. You'll get that dopamine hit, that virality, and after a while everything will level out and die down. Okay, getting to $1 million or more per revenue per month it's a journey. Okay, it's a path that you have to take, and it's a path of many steps, and you need to take those steps in order to get to that point. If you're looking to do this in 30 days or less, fine, good luck to you, and I really hope it works for you. But like I said, I've been doing this for many years now, and I can tell you that 80 to 90% of e-commerce brands that come to us as brand new businesses fail, okay? Or they don't grow the way they've been told because their coach, their guru, their person that they've been following on YouTube has basically inflated their expectations. Treat it as a business. Be methodical, be calm, remove emotion from the decision-making process. And then from there, you will start seeing things more clearly, and that clarity will then give you what you need in order to grow the business, okay? If you're looking to work with us and you're thinking, you know what, I want to help my business grow and scale, but you're not sure on how to do it, and if you need some good advice or anything at all, then feel free to, down below, there's a link, book in a call, and one of me or one of my team will jump on with you. We'll go through your numbers and do everything for you. We've also launched a service called the e-commerce roadmap. So this service is basically a 3-month agreement, but it's no monthly retainers or anything at all, but we work with you very closely to help you put the foundations in place for your business so that you're ready to start hitting those big revenue numbers. If that's something of interest to you, then again, down below is a link. Feel free to book a call in and we can discuss that. If you have any questions or anything at all, feel free to leave a comment, and if there's anything you want me to cover in future videos, and again, feel free to leave a comment. And if you're new to this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you do give us a subscribe to the channel, and if you know any other e-commerce businesses who could benefit from this video, then please share it with them. All the best, and thank you again for watching this video.